Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the HMS Ranger, looking out at the stars. He had been exploring space for 10 years, but he had never seen anything like this before. A massive ship floated in the darkness, broken and dying. Its hull was covered in strange blue crystals that flickered like dying flames. "Captain, we're getting a weak signal from that ship," said Lieutenant Mary Cox, his communication officer. "It's not like anything we've heard before. It sounds like music. Listen to the strange sounds coming through the speakers." They were beautiful and sad at the same time. The sounds rose and fell like waves, creating patterns that seemed to speak directly to his heart. "Dr. Lisa Parker to the bridge," Jake called over the ship's radio. "We need you up here right away." Dr. Parker arrived quickly. She was the ship's medical officer and expert on alien life. When she heard the musical sounds, her eyes went wide. "Captain, I think this is how they talk to each other. This isn't just noise. It's language." The HM's Ranger moved closer to the alien ship. As they got near, Jake could see that the vessel was huge. It was 3 times the size of his own ship, but it looked ancient and damaged. Parts of it were missing, and the blue crystals on its surface were growing dark. "Life signs?" Jake asked. "I'm reading thousands of them, Captain," said Dr. Parker, checking her instruments. "But they're all very weak. Whatever is on that ship is dying." Jake made his decision quickly. "Prepare a boarding party. We're going over there." An hour later, Jake and his team stepped onto the alien ship. The air was thin and cold, and everything around them glowed with a soft blue light. The walls were covered in the same crystals they had seen on the outside, but here they were dim and cracked dark. As they walked through the ship's corridors, they began to see the aliens. Jake's breath caught in his throat. They were like nothing he had ever imagined. The beings were tall and thin, with skin that looked like blue glass. Their bodies were partly made of the same crystals that covered their ship. Many of them lay on the floor, their crystal parts breaking and falling away like broken glass. "My God," whispered Dr. Parker. "They're beautiful." One of the aliens looked up at them. Its eyes were like blue stars, and when it opened its mouth, the musical sounds they had heard before came out. The sounds were weak now, barely a whisper. "Can you understand us?" Jake asked, even though he knew the alien probably couldn't speak human language. To his surprise, the alien's crystals began to glow brighter. The musical sounds changed, becoming more organized. Slowly, words began to form in Jake's mind. He realized the alien was somehow putting thoughts directly into his head. "Help ... us ... The thoughts came. "We are ... dying ... Dr. Parker knelt beside the alien. "What do you need? How can we help you?" More thoughts came, stronger now. "We are ... Silani. We have traveled far. No one ... will help us. All galaxy ... hates us. We have no home." Jake felt his heart break as he heard the alien's story. The Zelani had once lived on a beautiful world covered in crystal forests. They were peaceful people who loved music and art, but 100 years ago, something had gone wrong. The alien, who called herself Velanara, explained what had happened. The Zelani had met other space-traveling races for the first time. They had been excited to make new friends. But there had been a terrible mistake. The Zelani needed special minerals to survive. Their bodies were part crystal, and without the right minerals, they would slowly die. When they had asked to mine some minerals from an empty moon, the other aliens had thought they were trying to steal territory. A fight had started. A research station had been destroyed by accident. The Zelani had tried to explain what really happened, but no one would listen. The powerful Corvan Empire had declared them dangerous. They had spread lies about the Zelani across the galaxy. "Every time we find a new world," Velanara's thoughts continued, they tell us to leave. No one will trade with us. No one will give us the minerals we need. We have been running for so long. Now we are almost all dead. Jake looked around the ship. Everywhere he could see Zelani lying on the floor, their crystal bodies cracking and fading. Children clung to their parents, their small forms already beginning to break apart. "How many of you are left?" he asked. 50,000, came the sad reply. "Once we were millions. Now we are the last." Dr. Parker was running tests with her medical equipment. "Captain, their biology is incredible. They're like living crystals that can think and feel. But they're starving. They need specific minerals that I've never seen before." Jake made another quick decision. "We're taking them back to human space. All of them." His crew looked shocked. Lieutenant Cox spoke up. "Captain, we can't fit 50,000 aliens on our ship, and Earth Command will never approve this." "Then we'll make multiple trips," Jake said firmly. "And we'll ask for forgiveness later instead of permission now." Valinara's crystal body began to glow brighter. "You would help us, even though ... we are strangers." "That's what humans do," Jake said. "We help people who need help." Over the next several hours, Jake's crew worked to transfer as many Zelani as possible to the HMS Ranger. They converted cargo bays into temporary living spaces and shared their own food and water. Dr. Parker worked with Valinara to understand what minerals the Zelani needed to survive. As they prepared to leave, Valinara sang a song of gratitude. The musical sounds filled both ships, and every human who heard it felt tears in their eyes. It was the most beautiful thing they had ever heard. "We will not forget this kindness," Valinara said. "For the first time in 100 years, we have hope." Jake looked back at the dying Zelani ship as they departed. There were still thousands of aliens on board, too weak to move. He knew he would have to come back for them. He also knew that saving the Zelani would probably make enemies of the entire galaxy. But as he listened to their grateful songs, Jake knew he had made the right choice. Sometimes doing the right thing meant standing alone against the whole universe. The HMS Ranger turned toward human space, carrying its precious cargo of refugees. Behind them, the Zelani ship continued to drift in the darkness, its blue crystals slowly fading away. Admiral Kate Sullivan stared at the report on her desk. Captain Jake Morrison had saved 5,000 Zelani refugees and was asking for permission to go back for the rest. The request had caused chaos at Earth Command headquarters. "The Corvin Empire is furious," said General Nick Taylor, pacing around the room. "They're saying we have no right to interfere with galactic justice. They want us to hand over the aliens immediately." Kate looked at the photos Morrison had sent. The Zelani children were so beautiful, with their crystal skin sparkling in the ship's lights. Their large blue eyes held a sadness that broke her heart. What exactly did the Zelani do that was so terrible? According to the Corvins, they destroyed a research station and killed hundreds of scientists, said Colonel Sam Mitchell. They claim the Zelani are dangerous and can't be trusted. And according to the Zelani, it was an accident, Kate replied. Morrison's report says they were just trying to mine minerals they needed to survive. The argument had been going on for hours. Half of Earth's government wanted to return the Zelani to avoid making enemies. The other half wanted to help them. Kate knew that whatever decision she made would change humanity's place in the galaxy forever. Meanwhile, on the colony world of Kepler 442b, Commander Ryan Blake was setting up temporary homes for the Zelani refugees. The planet was perfect for them, with crystal caves that reminded them of their lost homeworld. "The minerals they need are actually common here," reported Dr. Amy Foster, the colony's chief scientist. "We can synthesize what they need to survive. It's not even expensive." Ryan watched as the Zelani children played in the crystal caves. They made musical sounds that turned the crystals different colors. It was like watching living art. The adult Zelani were teaching human children how to make the crystals sing. But not everyone was happy about the new arrivals. Colonial Governor Ben Carter had been complaining since the refugees arrived. "This is madness," Carter said during a colony meeting. "We're going to make enemies of the entire galaxy for a bunch of aliens we don't even know. What if the Corvins were right? What if they really are dangerous?" "Look at them," Ryan replied, pointing to where Zelani and human children were playing together. "Do they look dangerous to you?" One of the Zelani refugees, a young adult named Talmus, had been learning to speak human language. He was incredibly smart and picked up new words quickly. When he heard the argument, he approached the humans. "Please," Talmus said in broken English, "we do not want to bring trouble to your people. We can leave if you wish." His words made several colonists feel ashamed. Here was a refugee offering to leave rather than cause problems for the people who had saved him. "You're not going anywhere," said Marie Johnson, a local teacher. "This is your home now." Back on Earth, politicians were having heated debates. Politician Carl Davis was leading the opposition to helping the Zelani. "We can't afford to make enemies of species that have thousands of warships," Davis argued on television. "Humanity only has 200 ships. We'll be destroyed if we go to war over some aliens." But other humans disagreed. Tony Clark, an engineer who had worked with Zelani technology, spoke on the same program. "These people have knowledge that could advance human science by centuries," he said. "Their crystal technology could revolutionize everything from space travel to medicine. But more importantly, they're people who need help. That should be enough." Dr. Lisa Parker had been studying Zelani biology and culture. What she learned amazed her. The Zelani could connect their minds directly to computers and machines. They could make crystals grow in specific patterns just by singing to them. Their entire society was based on harmony and cooperation. "They're not just refugees," Dr. Parker reported to Admiral Sullivan. "They're artists, scientists, and engineers. They have so much to offer humanity." President Helen Murphy finally made the decision. In a speech broadcast across human space, she announced that Earth would grant asylum to all Zelani refugees. "We will not abandon people who need our help," the president said. "That's not who we are as human beings. We will offer the Zelani protection and a new home." The response from the galaxy was immediate and angry. The Corvin Empire cut off all trade with humanity. The Veshan Federation canceled shipping contracts. Other alien species began to distance themselves from humans. "We're being isolated," warned General Taylor. "No one wants to be associated with us anymore." But on Kepler 442b, something wonderful was happening. The Zelani were sharing their knowledge with humans. They showed Dr. Foster how to grow crystals that could store massive amounts of energy. They taught human engineers how to make materials that were stronger than steel, but lighter than aluminum. Talmus had become friends with many human colonists. He spent hours learning about human culture and sharing stories about his own people. The humans learned that the Zelani had once been great explorers and artists. They had created beautiful crystal cities that sang in the wind. "We had a saying on our homeworld," Talmus told Ryan Blake. "The crystal that stands alone breaks in the storm, but crystals that grow together become stronger than mountains." The friendship between humans and Zelani grew stronger every day. Human children learned to sing the crystal songs, while Zelani youngsters played human games. The two species discovered they had much in common despite their different appearances. Captain Morrison returned with more Zelani refugees. Each trip brought more survivors to safety, but it also made the galaxy angrier. Alien ships began patrolling the borders of human space, watching for any sign of Zelani vessels. Valinara, the Zelani leader, was getting stronger thanks to the Minerals on Kepler 442b. Her crystal body was healing, and her songs were becoming powerful again. She spent hours talking with human leaders about the future. "Your people have given us hope when we had none," she told Admiral Sullivan during a video call. "We were ready to die in the darkness of space. Now our children laugh and play again. We will never forget this gift." But the happiness couldn't last. Reports were coming in that the Corvin Empire was building a massive fleet. War Commander Thex Val, the Corvin leader, had declared that humanity's interference could not be tolerated. "They're gathering ships from across the galaxy," reported Colonel Mitchell. "Our spies say they have over 2,000 vessels." Admiral Sullivan knew that humanity was facing its greatest challenge. The entire galaxy was turning against them because they had chosen to help a group of refugees. Earth's small fleet couldn't possibly stand against such overwhelming force. "Maybe we should negotiate," suggested General Taylor. "We could ask for safe passage for the Zalani to leave the galaxy entirely." "No," said Kate firmly. "We gave them our word. We promised them protection, and that's what they'll get." On Kepler 442b, the colonists prepared for the worst. The Zalani offered to surrender themselves to save their human friends, but the colonists refused to even consider it. "We stand together," declared Governor Carter, who had changed his mind after getting to know the refugees. "If they want to hurt our friends, they'll have to go through us first." The Zalani were amazed by human loyalty. In their long exile, no one had ever been willing to fight for them. Now an entire species was ready to go to war rather than abandon them. As the Corvin fleet approached human space, both species prepared for the battle that would determine their fate. The humans had inferior numbers and technology, but they had something the aliens didn't understand: the determination to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Talmus stood with his human friends, looking up at the stars were enemy. Ships were gathering. "Whatever happens," he said, "we face it together." War Commander Thex Val stood on the bridge of his massive warship, the Corvin destroyer. Around him, 2,000 ships from across the galaxy waited for his orders. Never before had so many species joined together for a single purpose. "The humans have had their warning," Thex Val growled to his officers. 72 hours to surrender the crystal parasites, or we will take them by force." The Corvin commander had spent months convincing other species to join his fleet. He told them that humans were dangerous rebels who threatened galactic order. He claimed that if humans could ignore galactic law once, they would do it again. "Today we teach these upstart humans their place," he announced to his fleet. "No single species can defy the will of the galaxy." On Earth, President Helen Murphy sat in an emergency meeting with her top advisors. The largest alien fleet in galactic history was heading toward human space, and Earth's entire military couldn't match even 1/10 of their numbers. "We have to surrender the Zalani," urged Secretary of Defense Paul Roberts. "We can't sacrifice our entire species for a group of refugees." "The Theshans are offering to mediate," added Foreign Minister Claire Stevens. "They say if we hand over the aliens now, the Corvins might show mercy." President Murphy looked tired. She hadn't slept in days. "And what happens to the Zalani?" "They'll be killed or enslaved." "That's not our problem," said Roberts. "Our job is to protect humanity, not every refugee in the galaxy." But Admiral Kate Sullivan disagreed. "If we abandon the Zalani now, what does that say about us?" "We gave them our word. We promised to protect them." General Nick Taylor spread star charts across the table. "Even if we wanted to fight, we don't have enough ships. They outnumber us 20 to 1. It would be a massacre." On Kepler 442b, the Zalani refugees gathered in the crystal caves that had become their new home. Valinara, their leader, called all her people together. Her crystal body glowed with sad blue light as she spoke. My children, she sang in their musical language, the galaxy comes to reclaim us. We have brought danger to our human friends. Perhaps it is time to face our fate. Young Talmus, who had learned to speak perfect English, stood up. No, Harmony Singer, the humans chose to help us. They knew the risks. We cannot dishonor their sacrifice by giving up now. But many of the older Zelani disagreed. They had suffered. For 100 years, because of the lies the Corvins had spread, they were tired of running and hiding. We are tired, sang an elder named Malthara. If we surrender, maybe the humans will be spared. Commander Ryan Blake and his human colonists held their own meeting. Governor Ben Carter, who had once opposed helping the Zelani, now stood firmly with them. I've gotten to know these people, Carter said. They're not monsters or parasites. They're families with children who want to live in peace. We can't just hand them over to be slaughtered. Marie Johnson, the teacher, spoke up. My students, both human and Zelani, ask me why the galaxy hates their crystal friends. I don't know what to tell them. How do you explain hatred to a child? Doctor. Amy Foster had been working day and night with Zelani scientists. The technology they've shared with us could benefit the entire galaxy, she said. But more than that, they've shown us what true cooperation looks like. Their whole society is based on harmony. Engineer Tony Clark had been helping the Zelani adapt their crystal technology to human ships. With their help, we might actually have a chance in battle. Their harmonic abilities can disrupt alien sensors and communications. Meanwhile, Captain Jake Morrison was leading the last rescue mission to the dying Zelani ship. Only a few hundred survivors remained, too weak to be moved before. As his crew worked to save the last refugees, they received word of the approaching fleet. Captain, said Lieutenant Mary Cox, Admiral Sullivan is ordering all ships to return to defensive positions. Jake looked at the dying Zelani around him. We're not leading without them. All of them. Dr. Lisa Parker was working frantically to keep the weakest Zelani alive long enough to get them to safety. These people have suffered so much, she said. They deserve better than to die as pawns in someone else's war. Back on Earth, protests erupted in major cities. Some humans demanded that the government surrender the Zelani to save humanity. But others marched in support of the refugees, carrying signs that read, "No species left behind, and humanity stands together." The alien fleet arrived at the edge of human space, exactly 72 hours after the ultimatum was issued. War Commander Thexval sent one final message to Earth. Humans, his voice was cold and threatening, you have defied the will of the galaxy for the last time. Surrender the crystal parasites immediately, or face the consequences. President Murphy stood before a joint session of Congress and the United Nations. The whole world watched as she gave her response. To the species gathered at our borders, she said, her voice steady and strong, we hear your demands. You want us to abandon people who have done nothing wrong except to be different. You want us to send families to their deaths because of lies and prejudice. She paused, looking directly into the camera. Our answer is no. Humanity will not abandon those who trust us. We will not be part of genocide. If you want the Zelani, you'll have to go through us first. The reaction was immediate. Across the galaxy, alien news networks declared that humanity had chosen war over wisdom. Some species began to doubt whether the humans were as peaceful as they had claimed. But on Kepler 442b, both humans and Zelani felt their spirits lift. Their leaders had chosen to stand with them, no matter the cost. Valinara sang a song of gratitude. That made the crystal caves ring like bells. Never have we known such courage, she sang. The humans risk everything for strangers. This is true nobility. War Commander Thexval was furious. He had expected the humans to surrender when faced. with overwhelming force. Instead, they had chosen to fight for their alien friends. "So be it," he snarled. "We will destroy their ships and take the parasites from the wreckage of their worlds." The Corvin fleet began to advance into human space. Earth's small navy moved to intercept them, knowing they were vastly outnumbered. Human ships like the destroyer UHS Phoenix and cruiser UHS Liberty took positions alongside civilian vessels that had volunteered to fight. Admiral Sullivan commanded the human fleet from her flagship, the UHS Defender. She knew this might be humanity's last battle, but she was proud of the choice they had made. "All ships," she broadcast to the fleet, "today we fight not just for humanity, but for the idea that the strong should protect the weak. That is what makes us human." On the Zelani refugee ship, Taunus and other young Zelani volunteered to help fight. They used their crystal abilities to enhance human weapons and shields. For the first time in their lives, they would fight back against those who had oppressed them. As the two fleets approached each other, Commander Blake sent a final message from Kepler 442b. "Whatever happens out there," he said, "know that you fight for something bigger than ourselves. You fight for the right of all beings to live free from persecution." The battle for humanity's soul was about to begin. On one side, the combined might of the galaxy determined to crush any challenge to their authority. On the other, a small group of humans and their alien friends, armed with nothing but courage and the belief that doing right was worth any sacrifice. War Commander Thexval gave the order to attack. Show them the price of defying the galaxy. He commanded. The greatest space battle in galactic history was about to begin. Admiral Kate Sullivan watched the massive alien fleet approach on her screens. 2,000 enemy ships against humanity's 200. The odds were impossible, but she had a plan that no one in the galaxy would expect. "All ships," she broadcast, "to the human fleet, Operation Crystal Song is now active. Our Zelani friends are about to show us what real partnership looks like." On every human ship, Zelani volunteers had connected themselves to the ship's computers using their crystal abilities. Talmus was aboard the UHS Defender with Admiral Sullivan, his crystal hands glowing as he interfaced with the ship's systems. "We are ready, Admiral," Talmus said. "Our harmonic frequencies will confuse their sensors. They will not see us coming." The first wave of Corvin ships opened fire, expecting to destroy the smaller human fleet quickly. But something strange happened. Their weapons missed targets that should have been easy to hit. Their sensors showed human ships in places where nothing existed. "What is happening?" War Commander Thexfold demanded from his bridge. "Why can't we target them properly?" His officers had no answer. The Zelani harmonic abilities were creating false signals and disrupting the alien targeting systems. Human ships appeared to be in multiple places at once, while others seemed to vanish completely. Captain Jake Morrison led a small strike force toward the heart of the alien fleet. His ship, the HMS Ranger, had been modified with Zelani crystal technology. Dr. Lisa Parker worked alongside Zelani engineers to keep the systems running. "Their flagship is heavily protected," reported Lieutenant Mary Cox. "We can't get through their shields with conventional weapons." But they weren't using CONVENTIONAL weapons. Dr. Amy Foster's research had created something new. Human engineering combined with Zelani harmonic technology produced weapons that the galaxy had never seen before. Commander Ryan Blake led another group of ships in a flanking attack. The destroyer UHS Phoenix and cruiser UHS Liberty fought alongside converted civilian ships. Even cargo haulers and passenger liners had joined the battle, armed with whatever weapons they could find. For the Zelani, Blake shouted as his ships dove into enemy formations. The civilian crews fought with desperate courage, knowing they were protecting their new friends. The battle was fierce. Human ships were destroyed one by one, but each loss hurt the alien fleet too. The UHS Liberty sacrificed itself to protect a damaged Zelani transport ship. The destroyer UHS Phoenix rammed a Corvin cruiser when its weapons failed. But the human sacrifice was not in vain. The Yelani refugees were fighting back for the first time in 100 years. Their harmonic abilities disrupted entire enemy squadrons. Ships that had terrorized them for generations found their systems failing at crucial moments. Velanara, the Zelani leader, was aboard Admiral Sullivan's flagship. Her powerful voice coordinated all the Zelani on the human ships. Through their crystal network, she could communicate instantly across the entire battle. "My children," she sang to her people, "today we are no longer victims. Today we stand with friends who chose to die rather than abandon us." The tide of battle began to turn. The alien fleet was much larger, but they had never faced an enemy like this. Human creativity combined with Zelani abilities created chaos in their ranks. War Commander Thexvol grew desperate. His overwhelming force was being embarrassed by a tiny human fleet. "All ships, focus fire on the human flagship. Kill their admiral, and they will surrender." Hundreds of enemy ships turned their weapons toward the UHS Defender. Admiral Sullivan knew her ship couldn't survive such an attack. "It's been an honor serving with you all," she told her crew. But Velanara had a different plan. The Zelani leader stood up, her crystal body glowing brighter than anyone had ever seen. "Admiral," she said, "your species has shown us what courage means. Now let us show you what sacrifice looks like." Before anyone could stop her, Velanara connected herself directly to the ship's main computer. Her harmonic abilities amplified through the human systems, creating a wave of energy that spread across space. The wave hit the Corvin flagship like a thunderbolt. Vexval's mighty ship shuddered as its systems overloaded. Explosions rocked the bridge as computers burst into flames. "What have you done?" Vexval screamed, but Velanara's song was not just attacking the enemy. Her final harmony was being broadcast across the galaxy, carried by communication networks to every world. For the first time, billions of beings heard the true voice of the Zelani people. They heard songs of peace and beauty. They heard the pain of 100 years of exile. They heard the gratitude of a dying species toward the humans who had saved them. Most importantly, they heard the truth. The song revealed the Zelani's memories of their first contact with the Corvins. It showed the accident that had destroyed the research station, and how the Corvins had twisted the truth for their own purposes. Across the galaxy, other species began to question what they had been told. The insect-like Vrex remembered their own conflicts with the Corvins. The reptilian Saurians recalled how the Empire had stolen their mining rights. The energy-based Luminari realized they too had been manipulated. "The Corvins lied to us," said Vrex Queen Zixel from her distant homeworld. "The Zelani are not monsters. They are victims." Even some ships in the alien fleet began to have doubts. Theshan captains remembered their profitable trade with humanity. Sauron commanders questioned why they were fighting people who had shown such courage. But the battle was not over. Velanara's sacrifice had damaged the Corvin flagship, but Thexval still commanded a massive fleet. The Zelani leader collapsed, her crystal body cracking from the effort of her final song. "Harmony Singer," Talmus cried, rushing to her side. Velanara looked up at him with fading eyes. "Tell our children," she whispered, "that we finally found a species worthy of friendship." Her light went out, but her sacrifice had changed everything. Across the battle, Zelani and humans fought with new determination. They were no longer just trying to survive. They were fighting for the future that Velanara had died to protect. Admiral Sullivan rallied the remaining human ships. All vessels The Harmony Singer has given us a chance. Don't let her sacrifice be wasted. Captain Morrison's strike force finally reached the damaged Corvin flagship. The HMS Ranger, protected by Zelani harmonics, slipped through the enemy defenses. Dr. Parker had modified their weapons with crystal technology that could penetrate Corvin shields. "This is for all the refugees who died in the darkness," Morrison said as he gave the order to fire. The Corvin flagship exploded in a ball of fire. War Commander Thexval died, still refusing to believe that his superior force could be defeated by humans and their crystal friends. With their leader dead and their lies exposed, the alien fleet began to fall apart. Some ships retreated. Others surrendered. A few even switched sides, joining the humans against their former allies. The Vrex Queen sent a message to the battle zone. The Vrex Union withdraws from this conflict. We will no longer be part of Corvin lies. The Saran Republic followed. Then the Luminary Collective. One by one, the species that had joined the fleet abandoned the KOR Vans. As the battle ended, Admiral Sullivan looked around at her damaged fleet. They had lost many ships and brave crews, but they had won something more important than victory. They had won the right for the Zelani to live free. Talmus held the body of Velanara, singing a soft farewell song. Around him, both human and Zelani survivors mourned their losses while celebrating their impossible victory. "She saved us all," Dr. Parker said, tears in her eyes. Her song reached across the galaxy and opened everyone's eyes to the truth. The greatest battle in galactic history was over. Humanity and their Zelani friends had faced impossible odds and won through courage, sacrifice, and the power of truth. The galaxy would never be the same. 6 months after the great battle, the galaxy was a very different place. The truth about the Zelani had spread to every world, carried by Vailanara's final song. What people learned shocked them to their core. On the Veshan homeworld, Diplomat, Claire Stevens worked with Zelani scholar Mal Thara to examine old records. What they found proved that the Corvins had been lying for 100 years. "Look at this," Claire said, pointing to an ancient document. The original report from the research station accident. It clearly states that it was caused by equipment. Failure, not Zelani attack. Mal Thara's crystal body flickered with anger and sadness. All this suffering, all these years of exile, because they wanted our homeworld's crystal resources. The evidence was overwhelming. The Corvins had destroyed the research station themselves and blamed the Zelani to justify taking their planet. They had spent a century spreading lies to keep other species from discovering the truth. President Helen Murphy stood before the rebuilt Galactic Council. The old council, controlled by the Corvins, had been dissolved. In its place, a new organization formed based on the principles in Valinara's song. "We gather today not as conquerors and subjects," Murphy said, "but as equals seeking to build a better galaxy for all species." Talnus, now grown into a leader among his people, served as translator. His harmonic abilities allowed him to communicate Murphy's words in ways that every species could understand. The speech became known as the Harmony Accords. "Never again will we allow fear and lies to turn us against each other," Murphy continued. "The strong must protect the weak, not exploit them." The Veshan Federation was the first to sign the new treaty. Their leader, Prime Minister Walter, publicly apologized for their role in the Zelani persecution. "We were cowards," he admitted. "We chose profit over justice. The humans showed us what real courage looks like." One by one, other species joined. The new alliance. The Vrex Queen, the Soran Republic leaders, and the Luminary Collective all pledged to uphold the new principles of galactic cooperation. But the greatest ceremony came when the Zelani were granted a new homeworld, the planet, named Resonance Prime, was jointly terraformed by human engineering and Zelani bioharmonic cultivation. Crystal forests grew alongside human cities, creating something beautiful that neither species could have built alone. Admiral Kate Sullivan, now promoted to head of Galactic Defense, oversaw the construction of the first joint human-Zelani space station. The massive structure orbited Resonance Prime, serving as a symbol of what different species could accomplish together. 5 years ago, the Zelani were dying refugees with no hope, Sullivan said at the station's opening ceremony. Today, they are our partners in building a better future. Dr. Lisa Parker, now director of the Galactic Institute for Xenological Studies, watched human and Zelani children playing together in the station's gardens. The Zelani population had grown to over 100,000, their crystal cities singing with life once again. Their technology has revolutionized everything, Dr. Parker explained to visiting dignitarians. Zelani crystal storage can power a city for months. Their harmonic healing techniques have cured diseases we thought were impossible to treat. But the changes went deeper than technology. The Zelani way of life, based on harmony and cooperation, had influenced human society as well. Wars between human colonies had ended as people learned to solve conflicts through understanding rather than violence. Captain Jake Morrison, the man who had first rescued the Zelani, now commanded the exploration ship UHS Harmony. His crew was half human, half Zelani, searching the galaxy for other species that might need help. We found 12 refugee populations so far, Morrison reported to Admiral Sullivan. Species that were driven from their homes by the old Corvan Empire. Now we can offer them what the Zelani found with us, a chance to start over. The former Corvan Empire had collapsed after the truth came out. War Commander Thex Val was dead, but his surviving officers faced trial for crimes against entire species. Human lawyer Paul Roberts worked alongside Zelani truth singer Valain to prosecute the war criminals. Justice delayed is not justice denied, Roberts said as the trials began. These beings will answer for a century of genocide and oppression. They, TRILS, revealed the full extent of Corvan crimes. They had destroyed dozens of species, stolen countless worlds, and spread lies to turn the galaxy against anyone who opposed them. The evidence was overwhelming, but the new galaxy was not about revenge. It was about healing and rebuilding. Former Corvan worlds were given to refugee species. The Empire's vast military was broken up, with ships distributed to species that needed protection. On Resonance Prime, Talmus had become the Zelani's first ambassador to humanity. He worked closely with human leaders to strengthen the bonds between their species. His own children, born free on their new world, played with human children who had never known a galaxy without Zelani friends. My people have a new saying, Talmus told Commander Ryan Blake during a visit to the planet. The song that is sung alone is beautiful, but the harmony of many voices can shake the stars themselves. Blake smiled as he watched the crystal cities of Resonance Prime glow in the sunset. I think that's something humans can understand. The transformation was remarkable. Trade routes that had been controlled by the Corvans are now open to all species. Scientific knowledge flowed freely between worlds. Art and music from 1,000 different cultures began to blend and grow. Dr. Amy Foster had established research stations throughout the galaxy where human and Zelani scientists worked with other species to solve problems that had plagued civilizations for millennia. Disease, poverty, and conflict were being addressed through cooperation rather than conquest. But perhaps the most important change was in how the galaxy thought about refugees and outcasts. The human example had inspired others to help those in need rather than turn them away. We found 6 more ships full of displaced peoples last week, reported Captain Morrison during a council meeting. The Delian refugees, driven from their homes 50 years ago. They couldn't believe anyone would help them. The new galactic motto, written in Valinara honor, was inscribed on the walls of every space station and government building. The strength of the many protects the dignity of the few. President Murphy, now in her second term, often visited Resonance Prime to see how the partnership between humans and Zelani had grown. She would stand in the crystal gardens where children of both species learned and played together. Vele Nara was right, Murphy said during one visit. We are stronger together than we ever were apart. The memorial to the Harmony Singer stood at the center of Resonance Prime's capital city. Her crystal form was recreated in living stone that sang with the wind. Humans and Zelani alike would come to listen to her eternal song as the years passed. The alliance grew stronger. New species joined the Harmony Accords. Old enemies became friends. The galaxy that had once been ruled by fear and hatred was transforming into something beautiful. 10 years after the Great Battle, Admiral Sullivan stood on the bridge of the newest exploration vessel, the UHS Valinara. Her crew included humans, Zelani, and representatives from a dozen other species. Their mission was to explore beyond the known galaxy, seeking new worlds and new life. Long-range sensors are detecting something, reported the Zelani navigation officer. It looks like a distress signal from outside our galaxy. Sullivan smiled. Set course to investigate. Let's see who else might need a friend. The ship turned toward the unknown, carrying with it the values that humanity and the Zelani had taught the galaxy. In the cargo bay, supplies waited for whoever they might find: food, medicine, and most importantly, hope. The galaxy had learned that true strength came not from conquering others, but from standing up for those who couldn't stand up for themselves. It had learned that differences in appearance or culture were not reasons for fear, but opportunities for growth. And somewhere in the crystal cities of Resonance Prime, children both human and Zelani sang songs of harmony that could be heard. Among the stars, carrying the message that had saved 2 species and transformed a galaxy, we are stronger together.